What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much. Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another podcast, Formula Fools podcast. It is the second of our 34 podcast episodes. It's the same day. It's 5 minutes after the McLaren one is finished. Even though I've gotten changed, skin is dressed the exact same.
Yes.
This wasn't planned. I felt like I could wear a hoodie and realised merch is coming out soon. So, hoodie.
So there's a hoodie. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we're releasing 34 podcasts in 34 days. We're not necessarily recording them all at the same, like on that schedule. We're not recording them and editing them daily. We're trying to get a few out in advance.
Yes.
I think we've got 3 planned to record this morning, so we will see how we go.
Yes, we will. We're going to smash it. If you're unaware, if this is the first episode you're listening to of this series, we are releasing 34 episodes in 34 days, leading up to the first race of the year. Well, the first practice session of the year. 11 episodes are going to be covering the teams. 1 episode is going to be our reaction to the 2026 car launches, see how people have interpreted the rules and obviously liveries and things like that. And then 22 episodes, 1 for each driver. To finish this series off. So if this is the first one you're listening to, go back to the last episode, listen to the McLaren one. It was a really good episode. Quite a lot of history with McLaren, and obviously them being the current championship reigning champions. Go check that one out. And make sure you're following along on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, to be a part of this series. And drop us a message to just let us know where you're at and how you're finding it.
Lovely.
Nice. Anyway, I'm David, and this is Skin, if you are new here.
Oh, hello. Yeah. How's it going?
Go Skin. So, as I've mentioned, today is the second episode. This is the second episode. We're going to be talking about Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. We have to say the full.
Is that their actual name?
That's the official entry name into Formula One, yeah.
What?
Sponsors.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, sponsors.
Wait, who are they? Isn't AMG's?
Is Mercedes.
That's always on Mercedes, or often on Mercedes cars.
Yeah,
What the hell? What does that mean?
So you know how like We Got the Chocolates has been sponsored by Toyota before. Toyota has a Toyota, and then they have Toyota GR.
Yeah, okay.
Mercedes-AMG there's Mercedes, and then there is an AMG Mercedes. So it's just more luxury, more power, things like that. Just different type of engineering and different type of business to regular Toyota.
And then what are the other
Mercedes.
78 words in there now?
Petronas is a fuel sponsor. Like they do the fuels, they do the oils for Mercedes. Very big Malaysian company, I want to say. One of the world leaders in oils and fuels and things like that.
Right.
And then Formula One team. It's quite self-explanatory.
That's what they are.
That's just what they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go Mercedes.
Go Mercedes. So a little bit about them. They are a German manufacturer, obviously Mercedes German cars. They're based in Brackley, United Kingdom, which is very close to the Silverstone circuit. They were first founded Mercedes first raced in Formula One, in 1954. But the modern Mercedes team, as you know it today, entered Formula One in 2010. That was after the Brawn crazy season that they had in 2009. Where Ross Brawn bought out the team from Honda because Honda wanted to leave the sport at the end of 2008. So Ross Brawn bought the team off of them for £1. No joke. He bought the team for £1.
Yeah, okay. I have heard this story. Yeah.
And then during that year, they actually put a Mercedes engine in the back of a car that was designed for a Honda engine, and they had to make it work, and they somehow did it. And then obviously won the World Championship with it throughout that. They won the World Championship.
In 2009?
Brawn did, yeah.
Drivers and bought it for $1 and put the wrong engine in.
Yep.
They won the championship. Okay, I hadn't heard that part of the story.
You need to go and watch the Brawn GP documentary on Disney Plus. Is one of the best. Keanu Reeves is a phenomenal documentary producer and a very big F1 fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, mate, honestly, one of the best Formula One documentaries I've ever seen. That
man just gets more and more interesting.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. He also looks exactly like he did in The Matrix. Okay. He has not aged one fucking bit.
Shock.
So Mercedes, obviously, during that season, they impressed him. Brawn impressed Mercedes and the CEO of Mercedes at the time a lot. And so Mercedes decided to buy the team off of Ross because Ross just couldn't keep up with it. Ross did still managed the team and was team principal for a few years after that, helped set up the team, brought on a lot of the key people like Paddy Lowe, James Vowles, a lot of these people. I mean, a lot of them were already there at Brawn. Like they were there with the Honda days, they were there at Brawn. This is what a lot of people don't know. Like James Vowles was an engineer at Brawn the year they won.
Okay.
And then obviously got took on to Mercedes and is now team principal. Everyone just kind of thinks he came from Mercedes. No, he was there during the struggle days. He was there not getting paid in the beginning of 2000 or most of 2000 and just doing it for the love of it because they couldn't afford to pay half the staff.
Right.
They did eventually.
What was his role at Mercedes before he went to Williams?
He was head strategist at Mercedes towards the middle and end of his career. He's got some iconic Mercedes race radios where he's come on and he's like told Valtteri to move out the way for Lewis and things like that. Like the iconic line is like, Valtteri, it's James. And then you just know it's get the fuck out the way. Because when a head strategist is talking to you on the radio, you need to move.
Okay. That's it.
So yeah.
And sorry, do you have any idea when Mercedes bought Brawn off old mate?
Yep.
What was his name, sorry?
Off of Ross Brawn.
Ross Brawn.
Yeah.
Okay. So they brought Brawn off Brawn.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what they paid him? Because that could be the greatest return on investment ever.
Yeah.
If he bought it for $1 and sold it for like,
it must have been in the hundreds of millions or at least tens of millions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it would have been a lot of money. So yes, it would have been a very good ROI.
Okay.
Yeah. He did also put a lot of his own money, personal money into the business to just maintain it at the very beginning, keep people paid, keep the factory open. Like there was a time at the beginning of Brawn's era where like they turned up and the bailiffs had locked the factory doors and chained the gates up and stuff.
What?
Because they couldn't pay the bills, they couldn't pay the rent and things.
Right.
So they were being literally seized upon, and so that Ross had to use his own money to Ross and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he had a business partner who did all the business side of things to get the deal through. And just watch the Brawn documentary. It's a phenomenal story, and set up what is now the Mercedes F1 team. So yeah, in 2010, Mercedes swooped in, bought the team, took it off of them. They struggled. They had some struggles in the early years. We'll get onto that in a little bit. They've obviously since then won 8 constructors titles from 2014 through to 2021. And they also during that era won 7 drivers titles. So they won 6 with Lewis and 1 with Nico in 2016. Driver most associated with this team, it has to be Lewis Hamilton for me. I think Lewis was automatically not in the running for McLaren because even though he was McLaren Junior, went through the thing, was McLaren, his first championship was with McLaren, but he's a Mercedes driver. He is Mercedes. For me, you think Mercedes, you think of Lewis. And I know that's quite controversial because a lot of new fans are going to remember Lewis for being in red and being with Ferrari. Depending on how many more years he decides to go through the pain. But I think for any long-term F1 fan, we're always going to remember Lewis in black or in silver.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Origins and foundations. Mercedes, obviously, like I said, as a Formula 1 team, they were founded in 1954. They had a 50-year absence from the sport, so they didn't stick around for too long. I think other racing kind of dominated what they wanted to do. They did a lot of like in the DTM, like German touring car kind of series. They did a lot of stuff like that. Road cars were their main priority, and sports car racing was a far bigger priority for the Mercedes group than Formula 1. I don't know why. I think losing too much money was potentially one of the reasons they decided not to stick at it.
Right.
Similar for Lamborghini.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, you told me before the app not to ask you too much about their time in the 50s because
I don't know much about it.
You weren't there in the 50s, but yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit about why they stopped racing in Formula 1 because I had a squiz at this earlier and
okay, so you've done more research on this bit than I have.
Well, only a tiny bit.
Go ski.
I thought their hiatus was. Well, I thought it was from all of racing, and I thought it was kickstarted by a tragedy in Le Mans in 55.
Yeah. So they took a big hiatus, but this is the thing with taking a hiatus from major racing is that you're always still there. Like Mercedes, I remember growing up watching the British touring cars, and there was always Mercedes cars, but there was never a Mercedes works team. So they would still manufacture cars that could be raced or modified into a race car. So you would see Mercedes cars racing, but it would never be Mercedes as a racing manufacturer.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sort of. Yeah.
So similar to how right now we've got Haas in F1. Haas only race in NASCAR and F1. So like you could say that they, they're not a major works team across. You would never see a Haas car in the supercars or in the British touring cars or in the rally because Haas aren't a major manufacturer like Mercedes. Whereas Mercedes being a major manufacturer of just cars, you will see their cars dot up around other areas of motorsport, regardless of whether the Mercedes team is attached to them.
Okay.
They'll build the car, they'll give them an engine, and they'll supply that to an independent team like Haas, but they would never enter themselves for that time.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes some sense.
Yeah.
And do you know much about
the crash?
The crash and then the decision to stop racing, right? Because so it was a Mercedes car that crashed at Le Mans and obviously caused a heap of tragedy.
Yeah.
But like any car could have crashed, like it was like that's surely an issue with safety standards and
for sure.
things that were going on in the entire sport at the time. Like it's not like it's not like it could have been any car. It just happened to be a Mercedes. So like you're trying to work out. I was trying to work out last night, like what's the actual reason they stopped racing, and it was just like, well, there was a crash.
Yeah.
So okay, there have been a lot of crashes, and a lot of teams continue racing after crashes.
No, it must have purely just been an emotional thing from the owners. I don't know. I don't like the crash you're referring to. I kind of know the story, but I don't even know much about it because I've never done research into it. But yeah, like look. Remember when we watched the Ferrari film all about Enzo? There was that crash that fucking killed half the audience.
Well, yeah.
Like there's big,
similar
big
to that,
crashes like that. And yeah, they keep going, but someone at Mercedes was obviously shook by it, and they decided to pull out.
Right.
Enzo, back in that day, you had to be very cutthroat. Enzo had a reputation of always having a second driver waiting in the wings and there was a lot of stories from Enzo where drivers would die at a racetrack, and they would have a reserve driver and car there ready, and before the end of the race, that driver would already be out on track during sports car events and things like that.
Yeah.
Like he would replace drivers like that when they died. Like he would send flowers and money to the family and everything. He was very compassionate in that way. But in terms of what's best for Ferrari was getting a car out on track and showing it off in front of people. And obviously Mercedes just they were a bit too, probably how I would be as well. To be fair, they were very attached to the people and the family connection. And so when that happened, they must have shook them too much.
Okay.
I would be like that. I would be fucking terrified.
Okay. And then so they've taken this hiatus from, well, most racing, but they're sort of dotting up around the place, but certainly not a team in F1 for 50 odd years, really.
Yeah.
Why would they have decided to get back into racing? Well, and how did they get back into racing by just buying Brawn, or were they already like supplying engines to other teams prior to that? Like,
yeah, they were. Yeah, so that's a great question. They were supplying engines for a number of years, and this is the other thing. Mercedes F1 were already supplying engines for a few years prior to being with Brawn. Like McLaren had a Mercedes engine for quite a while there, maybe 10 plus, maybe even from like the 90s. Mm-hmm. They had McLaren had a Mercedes engine. So yeah, it certainly wasn't a surprise when they bought Brawn. Like they were in and around the paddock quite a lot in the years leading up to it. And I don't think it was any secret that they wanted to launch a works Formula One team. So no, it wasn't a big surprise or anything. It was more just kind of, when is the opportunity going to arise for them to enter the sport? And I think the main surprise was the financial breakdown of 2007, 2008. We saw Toyota, Honda, and a few other people leave the sport. So to see a major manufacturer like that actually then in 2010 investing into the sport, that was kind of the first sign that things certainly in Germany weren't going too bad financially. Like they were starting to recover from the financial breakdown that had happened because they were willing to put that much money in. And then obviously we saw Mana Marussia and Caterham join the grid in 2011-12. So they've since left the grid. But yeah, like it was kind of a small era of like what we're seeing now with new teams joining. So it wasn't a surprise. It just kicked off the first of the new teams in that early 2010s era.
Okay.
Nice. The evolution of the team. I broke this down just like the McLaren episode. We've got 3 eras here. The first one is the return and foundations, 2010 to 2013. We've just covered a lot of this. Schumacher was brought back from retirement after he'd retired from Ferrari. Ross Brawn, who had a lot of success as team principal at Ferrari in the early 2000s with Michael. He had convinced Michael, as very personal, like very close friends, he convinced him to return to the sport to help in his bid to push the team on and bring and attract good engineers and good sponsors towards the sport. So Michael was brought on not as a PR stunt, because he's a fucking phenomenal driver, even at the age that he was when he came out of retirement, which I can't remember. It was late. He was old. Like, I think when he retired again, he was in his 40s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, he wasn't, he certainly wasn't on the top step, but he wasn't past it. When you're someone like, just like Lewis, it's like, we can't blame Lewis for the shit that he had last year. He's still Lewis Hamilton. He's still a phenomenal driver. But it certainly attracted a lot of good sponsors and a lot of good press for Mercedes to bring out the greatest of all time on paper, Michael Schumacher. Obviously, being a German driver with a German outfit, they also brought on Nico Rosberg. It was a very German fit with a British team principal, which I thought was quite ironic. But yeah, Jensen and Rubens both left the team after 2009. They were the Brawn drivers. Jensen went to McLaren. And then Rubens went over to, did he go back to Williams? Where did Rubens go? Because I'm sure Rubens carried on driving for a little bit. Can't remember where he went, but they both left and they brought on Schumacher and Rosberg. Era 2 for Mercedes is the hybrid era dominance. So I was talking about this earlier. From 2010 through to 2013. Yeah, 2013. They really struggled. 2013, they got their shit together. They had a very fast car on 1 lap pace. So qualifying, they could most of the time qualify on pole, but during the race, they just couldn't keep the tires cool. They couldn't keep the engine cool. They were struggling a lot with just race pace, like keeping consistently fast race pace compared to the Red Bull and the Ferrari in 2013. But they really in 2013 showed that they were a serious team that were going to do well in 2014 and beyond. So 2014, the turbo hybrid era. We got the major engine rule change, like what we're seeing again this year. We went from a V8 engine to a V6 turbo hybrid. So that means we have a internal combustion engine that you would find in most modern day cars as a V6. You wouldn't find a V6, but a V6 version of it. And then alongside that in parallel, they had a turbo on the end of it, which obviously fucking anyone that's driven a car with a turbo and then had your turbo brake, how much a fucking turbo matters to a car. But then they also had an electrical component, which is what we still have today, on the side of it. And Mercedes dominated when it comes to building this engine. This will probably go down in history as the greatest motorsport engine to ever be built in terms of how dominant they were, how good their customers were with the engine. It was just a phenomenal piece of engineering, and it pains me to say it, but I don't think anyone will ever come close to making an engine from day one and have it dominate for that many years. There's interviews like Paddy Lowe and other engineers from Mercedes have done where they would sit down and have chats in 2014, 15, 16 before the race and say, okay, well, what percentage of power should we run? Because if we run this at 100%, we're going to win by 5 laps against everyone else. They knew that their engine was just that fucking good.
Okay.
We obviously started to see cracks in 2016. There was a few engine failures, which you could argue that led to Lewis not winning the championship and Rosberg winning the championship. And then obviously towards the end of the 2010s into the 2020s, we've seen Red Bull, Honda engines kind of catch up and overtake with Max Verstappen, beating them for a few years there.
Right. Wait, so in terms of the V6 turbo, all those sort of changing guidelines that happened in 2013, it's still up until 2025 was still a similar engine? Apart from very minor changes, the exact same engine basically. Okay. So they just slowly got less dominant as the rest of the field.
Yeah, they would build a new version of it each year. So there was a lot of different variants to it because they would obviously throughout the season, they would get data and go, oh, we've got a weak point here or a weak point there, just like Honda would do or whatever. But yeah, with COVID, we actually got an engine freeze. So there was going to be no engine changes. You couldn't change anything major about your engine apart from like any safety things or whatever from pretty much 2020 through till 2025. But up until then, there was quite a lot of development around them engines.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so other teams just sort of worked out what they'd done so well and got better and better.
Not even Honda. Honda ran a lot of, like, obviously with the failures of McLaren, Honda ran a lot of internal tests and they changed the way that they engineered the engine quite heavily from the McLaren days and just managed to kind of almost reinvent their engine and found different ways of getting power from their engine. So, you can look at what they did as a very impressive feat as well to be able to then beat it. But I don't think we've ever seen an engine change in Formula One that is, and we'll see again this year. We've never seen an engine change where all of a sudden a team is just crazy fucking dominant,
right?
And hold that dominance for so long.
Sure. So there was just a massive change in regulations and they just got it right from day one somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Obviously, this whole time they were also led by Toto Wolff. After Ross Brawn left, I think in 2012 or 13 or something, Toto was brought on by Mercedes to kind of take the reins and really run with it.
As team principal, he was team principal straight away.
Team principal and CEO, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. He has massive stakes in the team as well. He's majority stakeholder in the team.
Yeah.
Because he also had stakes in Williams at the time, and then sold them.
Right. Okay.
A few years later. A really funny quote from Ross Brawn when he left the team. I think it was Ted Kravitz interviewed him and said, what's next for you? What's the next project? And he said, the last few years has made me really tired. He said, I'm going to go fishing, and that's it. And we didn't fucking hear from him for a long time.
Really?
Like a good 6-7 years. We heard nothing from him. He literally just went fishing.
That's amazing.
Like him and his wife, they just went and had holidays and went fishing and chilled and just enjoyed the spoils of the previous successes of the last few years. I think the Brawn year of 2009 really took it out of him and his wife financially and mentally. So he needed a very big break. And then Ross Brawn came back and was obviously CEO of Formula One before Stefano Domenicali took over. Did quite a lot of good for the sport, helped with bringing in the budget cap and things like that for smaller teams. So he was pivotal to having the sport, he was pivotal to make Mercedes, to set up Mercedes to have the success they had. He was pivotal in setting up Formula One to have the success it's currently having. So, and then when you look at what he did in the early 2000s with Ferrari, Ross Brawn is arguably one of the most influential people in Formula One's history, in my opinion. So yeah, a lot of respect for him. And the third era for Mercedes is their regulation reset and decline is kind of how I put it. So in 2021, we obviously saw a crazy battle between Lewis and Max Verstappen, ending in Max Verstappen winning the drivers, Mercedes winning their final Constructors Championship in a while. And then from 2022, we saw, look, I won't say the stupidest design of a car I've ever seen, because we have had a 6-wheel F1 car before, but certainly in modern day times, a stupid idea.
Okay.
They brought a car that didn't have side pods.
Why?
Because they're fucking idiots.
I assume that's not true.
No, they had a lot of
the smartest engineers in the world would be working there.
You remember all the compliments I just gave all of their engineers? Yeah, I take all that back. No, they brought this car out, and it from day one, it was like, oh wow, that looks fucking stupid. It was straight down the sides. There was a really funny meme that you can find on the internet where George Russell does an interview with Drive to Survive, and he's like, oh, I think it's going to be one of the best cars. It's so good looking, like da da da. And then before the season, they do a big photo with all the cars and teams on the grid. And I think it was Lando Norris goes over and he's laughing at the car. And he goes, what the fuck is that? And George just goes, yeah, I know, they rolled it out. And I was like, what the hell is this? And it's like, brother, you've contradicted yourself big time there.
Go, George.
So yeah, it was a bit of an embarrassment. They had crazy amounts of porpoising. This was obviously the first year of the ground effect cars. So that's why we saw a major change from Mercedes. This is also why I'm saying Mercedes could bring something fucking crazy this year with their car. So I'm very keen to see what they launch. But yeah, they certainly had a massive decline from being so dominant for 8 years to all of a sudden being, fighting to get points at the end of the day. It was quite embarrassing for the team, for Lewis, for George taking the big step up from Williams to Mercedes to all of a sudden not being able to fight for wins and podiums straight away. And we've seen in the past year, 2 years, they've brought that back slowly. Like from 2022, they obviously had to make improvements. In 23, we saw small improvements. 24, kind of, thereabouts. 25, pretty big improvements. Finishing second in the championship for them was a very big achievement. And obviously, this whole time, Toto Wolff's been there at the top. Management has changed with them a little bit. They've, they had the likes of Paddy Lowe, who went on to be Williams team principal and kind of fucked us over quite a lot. We've had the likes of James Vowles, who was, like I said, chief strategy at Mercedes and a very big reason that they had their dominance, who has gone through to Williams. And there's been a few other technical people in the aero department, in their engine department, in strategy department that have since left, either when Lewis left or just slowly have gotten, they've wanted a different kind of challenge because Mercedes was very consistent. And so they've moved on to other teams and are personally looking for something different. So Mercedes are going through a very big rebuild over the past few years. We're obviously seeing that with Kimi Antonelli in the car right now. So let's just look at the people, like at where the team is today, because we're kind of talking about that. Drivers, George and Kimi. George is their clear number one at the moment. He's consistent, he's fast, he's very good. Kimi will be their number one within the next year or two, I would imagine. Kimi's a good driver, but he's young and he needs nurturing to get to where George is at or to get to the point where he can be a world champion. But I think Kimi is one of the best drivers, one of the best rookies we've certainly seen since Max Verstappen. Potentially since Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
You know
How can you say since Lewis Hamilton when Max Verstappen is since Lewis Hamilton? Because
Max was obviously going to be a good driver, but his first season wasn't in a major team. His first half was in a Toro Rosso. So the V-Carb, kind of, the sister Red Bull team. Teams don't usually put a rookie driver in their main car straight away. So Mercedes put George Russell in the Williams for a number of years. But when McLaren hired Lewis Hamilton, he went straight into it and was title contender in 2007, his first year. Obviously, Kimi wasn't a title contender, but Kimi went into the number one team. He went into the works team, which is a very bold statement to say. And to say he went up against George Russell and sometimes beat him, most of the time didn't, but he did very well racing against George. It's an amazing feat what he did.
Okay.
So I'm very impressed with what he did last year.
Okay, right. So you're optimistic on Kimi. Are you optimistic on George? You sort of seem to like throw around drivers you do and don't think can be a world champion. Yeah, as you're George like, you don't think George would be. Why is that?
He's just not got the ruthless aggression that you need, unless like Lando Norris. Because I think Lando might be a one and done kind of world champion. Unless you're lucky like Lando, where you have a car that is the best car for at least half the season. I think that would be the only way that George would win a championship, which could happen this year. That would be the only way George would win a world championship. I think if it was equal terms, George versus Kimi, in terms of give us 2 years when Kimi's settled and he's fucking fast as fuck, give them a championship winning car, Kimi's going to beat him all day long. Okay. In my opinion.
Okay. Or even if, say, Mercedes were on par with another team.
Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari. Yeah.
George was up against one of the other drivers.
It would depend. If he was up against Lando or Charles, I don't know, out of them three who would win. Potentially Lando. I don't know. Okay. If he was up against a Lewis or a Max, no way. Or even an Oscar, no way.
Okay. Interesting.
Maybe
it's
an Oscar.
Fun little rating system.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
We will literally. It's 1000% opinion based. I could be so fucking wrong. Like it's just my opinion on them.
Maybe. I guess we'll know in like 10 years, but see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Team principal is Toto Wolff. He's been leading the way. He's not a technical team principal like others that we've seen, like what we said with Andrea Stella, or like what we see with James Vowles or Adrian Newey. But he is a very, 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 very good businessman, and he knows his weaknesses in terms of not being a technical guy. So he's very open with the fact that he will hire the correct people around him to do the job, to do the correct jobs and the best jobs that they possibly can. And over the years, he has fostered since he first went there, he's fostered a method of, he calls it his no blame culture. In Mercedes, there's no blame. So if something goes wrong, no one gets blamed. There's no finger pointing. There's no one person did something wrong. You look at, I think it was Germany 2016 or 2017. Him and Lewis and Valtteri were dominating the race, and just they should have won it. They were dominating the season. They had the best car. They should have won the race. Rain starts to come down. There was one bad strategy call. Lewis ended up sliding into the wall. Then they missed his tires, or they got it wrong. Then Valtteri was in first, and then they fucked Valtteri somehow. And after the race, there was a very emotional Toto Wolff, and this was the first time in years that they'd done a special livery, because it was a special occasion, like a 250th race kind of thing or some shit like that. So it was on a special occasion, and they'd done the overalls, so it looked like they were wearing like Lederhosen, and they'd done the car with a special livery on the front, and everyone was wearing, was it Lederhosen? No, it might have been like traditional British wear. I can't remember what the occasion was, but they were all wearing flat caps and things like that. And a very emotional Toto Wolff after the race said, this no blame culture came into question because he was like, maybe we were focusing on the wrong things, and kind of had a dig at the marketing team or whatever for that. And then he came back the following week and was like, I was out of line. It was actually nothing to do with anyone. Like, we failed as a team. The drivers failed. We failed. The strategists failed. The engineers, everyone as a team failed that day.
Sure.
And there was no blame culture, and they moved on from it very quick.
Okay.
Which can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing. Like, sometimes you actually have to figure out what the blame is.
Yeah. If there's no blame culture, how do you ever find the cause of a problem and solve it?
I think it's more of a outwardly spoken no blame culture, but internally they'll figure out what the issue was, and they'll work together as a team to rectify what that issue is more so.
Okay.
Listen, there's not a single person that has come out of the Toto Wolff management system that has a bad word to say about him. If you listen to the way James Vowles speaks about Toto Wolff in his interviews, he can only say good things about him, and he credits Toto Wolff with being the one person that gave James Vowles the tools to be able to now manage his own team. So, he's doing something right at that team.
Yeah, okay.
And I think, I talk about Ross Brawn being an icon of the sport. I think Toto Wolff will go down as one of the best in history. Recent Constructors finishers in 2024, they finished in fourth. In 2025, they finished in second. So build into a potentially good 2026. Where their weaknesses lie is going to be, especially throughout this year, is they need to figure out how to close the gap, the performance gap with their aerodynamics and their strategy against the likes of Red Bull and McLaren. Potential emerging competitors will be Williams and Aston Martin. Obviously, Aston Martin having Adrian Newey, and Williams just investing for the last 3 years now heavily into people and infrastructure. I think Mercedes need to look forward at Red Bull and McLaren, but also keep an eye over the shoulder at what them two teams are doing in a big way. And then obviously developing Kimi Antonelli whilst being able to still stay competitive. If they come out the gates this year with a fucking phenomenal car, they still have a rookie that has only got one season under his belt. So they need to make sure that Kimi...
And in Dave's opinion, a number one driver who can't win. So, I think that's a problem.
He could win if he got the right car, but I think ruthless aggression, he doesn't have that.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, they're going to need to make sure that is managed, especially in the early part of this season. So just like with McLaren, I said, keep an eye on them in these first 10 races for how the car is looking. I think keep an eye on Kimi for how he comes out the gates and how they manage him throughout these first 10. I think by the end of the season, he'll be a lot stronger of a driver, but his first 10 races are really going to define his career of this season. So yeah, that's kind of what we need to look out for with Mercedes for this going into 2026. We've got a few moments of Mercedes history that I just wanted to mention here. If you want to look back on Mercedes history and look at any of their key moments, the first one would be just watch the 2014 turbo hybrid era, any of the races, just see how fucking amazing they were in 2014 with their qualifying performance and then their race performances. It was I hated it because I'm not a Lewis Hamilton fan. But I can look back now as an F1 fan and just go, do you know what? Respect to them. They did a good job and they deserve all of the credit for that. Obviously, they took the Constructors. Lewis took his second World Championship, his first for Mercedes. Moment 2, 2016. If you've got time to go and watch back the entire season, do it.
The entire 2016 season.
Mate, it was one of the greats. It was such a good season in terms of the championship battle. Rosberg winning, Hamilton winning all the time, some engine breakdowns. Like, it was just we saw a lot of like title deciding moments throughout that season.
Really?
Yeah. Like a lot of comings together. Like they had a few crashes, arguments post race, you know, it getting a bit verbal between the drivers and it was a mental game throughout that season. Rosberg versus Hamilton. Like you look at Monaco in 2016 with Rosberg locking up his tires and going off into a slip road to bring out a yellow flag. So Lewis had to slow down so that he couldn't get on pole. So Rosberg would end up winning the race. Like it was a tactical game that both of the drivers played throughout the season.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was really good. And then moment 3 for me, the 2021 season, Lewis versus Max Verstappen. One of the greatest seasons I've ever watched in terms of people look at it. Oh, Max was in the wrong. Oh, Lewis was. Who cares? It was great racing. Yeah, they crashed. Yeah, they had a lot of comings together. Sometimes it was Lewis's fault. Sometimes it was Max's fault. There's the title decider controversy there as well. I don't give a fuck. It was great racing. It was classic racing. If we look at the greats from history, you know, we look at James versus Nicky in the 70s. James Hunt versus Niki Lauda. You know. Niki Lauda got fucking James Hunt's car disqualified on a technical breach, and it was total bullshit. It was pure politics, but it was great racing. It was great. It was a great story. You look at Senna, Prost again, crashing into each other, the arguments, the hiding of secrets with each other's setups and things like that. Like it was controversial, but it was good. 2021 was controversial, but it was good. It will always go down in history as one of the best seasons.
Okay.
So they're Mercedes 3 defining moments, in my opinion, right. or 3 moments in their history that you need to go and.
So is that what we're lacking in 2025? A bit of controversy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is McLaren denied us controversy, and that's why it ended up being a pretty boring overall season.
Right, because they're just so open and honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hope that 2025 was a lesson to those that gave verbal and physical, not physical, but like the threat of physical violence towards Max Verstappen and his family and anyone that would support Max Verstappen. And also, you know, Max Verstappen fans that threw that verbal and physical violence towards Lewis Hamilton and his family. Like, I hope it's a lesson to all of them wieners out there that we need controversy for the sport to be exciting. And, you know, you look at 25 and it was just boring because we didn't have that controversy.
Sure.
So let's not discourage controversy. Let's encourage it. Let's not be wieners. Let's keep the controversy there, but let's keep it above board and
all right,
smart and calm and, you know.
Interesting.
I can call Lewis a wiener, but deep down I know he's a very good driver.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, big picture summary for McLaren, Mercedes moving into 26. They've got to manage Kimi. They've got to manage George. What is Toto going to do? Potentially coming towards the end of his career, is he going to want to sell the team, sell his share, move on as TP?
I'm pretty sure he sold a share.
He sold some shares to
the bloke that owns CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike, yes. Yeah, the CrowdStrike guy.
At the end of last year, and it values the Mercedes F1 team at $6 billion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking insane, isn't it?
That's unbelievable.
It's just insane.
just a racing team.
Yeah. Yeah. For not even for assets as well, but mainly the commercial value that they have. That is crazy.
We're in the wrong industry. We need to start an F1 team.
Well, Skin, maybe this podcast one day we'll start the Fools team. And we'll finish last every week. But yeah, that's certainly something that they need to look out for. Again, I think look out at Mercedes. For me, look out at Mercedes launch. I don't know if they'll be launched by the time this podcast is out, but look at their car launch. I've got a feeling that they're going to bring something sneakily good. Mercedes are known for bringing some like crazy aerodynamic things or crazy concepts to their cars. They're not scared of doing that. They're very forward thinking with engineering. So I think keep an eye out for their preseason testing, which is coming up in week or so as this podcast comes out.
Okay, beautiful.
So yeah, as well, that wraps up another lap around the Formula Fools podcast. If you are enjoying this series, or if you are new to this series, please go and listen to the first episode. Please follow along to get the rest of the series for the teams and for the drivers. And if you've got any questions about Mercedes, drop us a question on Spotify. You can drop it below, or you can go over to our Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, or Twitter. We don't really use Twitter. In fact, I'm not logged into Twitter on my new phone. Yeah, go to Instagram or TikTok, and drop us a DM or comment on a video, and we will gladly answer questions if we certainly won't answer them in these 34 episodes, but potentially in the future, if there are any good questions, we could potentially do a podcast or a YouTube video on your questions.
Absolutely.
Ratings and reviews.
Well, I feel like we ought to keep the homework pretty simple in this little period. You know, we're pumping out an episode a day.
That's true.
If you're feeling generous and you want to leave a rating and review, go for it. Don't let me stop you. But mainly, just make sure you're following along. We'll have another episode tomorrow, so please be there. Make sure you've clicked follow, turned on any notifications, all that sort of jazz. Don't miss a thing. Get around it. Thank you.
Go skin. What's my last line? Something about every turn has a chance for a good laugh.
Something like that.
Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time. Smooth. Go skin. Panic on my face, but all of the waveforms.
Yeah, I didn't.
This was
panic
I
on your
kept
face,
I kept looking at this and these, so I'm just hoping that when I hit space.